happy Saturday. Even though I'm out of town, as you can see, in an undisclosed location, not really. I just have this because you can't see anything. The background, there's actually the ocean is back there, and some more of the hotel. So I was gonna do a video on Wednesday, and just was in a really bad state of mind for a number of reasons, and was just overrun with anxiety. So as a result, I decided just not to do it that day. Which actually leads, during this like anxiety attack I was having, that simultaneous moment, I found out that it was like National Mental Health Awareness Week, and to make a point, here I am on vacation now, and very calm and feeling better, but it's a non-political thing. First is we don't have very good mental health services in this country available to everybody, and so make sure you if you're dealing with things, you have to be open about it, you have to be willing to talk about it, but beyond anything else, get help. I mean, do what you have to do. There are people out there that care for you. So for me, when that happened, I started texting a lot of people, friends, and talked to friends, but I didn't even mention, actually, in that case, that I was having the issue. I did post about it, but I didn't really mention because I didn't need to. Just talking brought me back down to friends, and it's normal to feel isolated in this world, even though you may not, maybe you shouldn't, or you should. It doesn't matter. And beyond that, doesn't matter what the problem is. Anything can trigger, like even very minute things can trigger the body to can trigger you in some way. And you shouldn't feel bad no matter what the situation is. So I just want to say that if you have any issues, please go out and talk to friends in the most basic level, and if you feel right, you can talk about the specific issue or just talk to people. But don't feel bad. All right, that was interesting. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it. I think it's just a real dangerous thing we have in our society. We have a real big stigma, and we shouldn't. And but also don't make light of it either. Too many times I've seen that this is being done. There's a lot of things being made light of in politics, and we have to differentiate whether, and be sensitive to these type of issues. It's not funny to joke about. It's not a good thing to even insult someone with. Even to someone like Trump, you can make an argument that he is showing signs of particular conditions, but at the same time, don't make very strong light of it. It's just like the Putin-Trump jokes about homosexuality. Yes, Trump is very friendly with Putin and all that, but you have to draw a line. You don't want it to go too far. So we need to be more sensitive about these kind of things. And when I say we, I mean myself too. This isn't me speaking from some hill on a mountaintop. It's just me making an observation. So that's what that was all about. I'm now here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, on a very rare, like, solo planned trip. Usually when I'm going out, it's for weddings or the like. But to come down here was interesting to do on my own. But it's been great. I've had some time to walk on the beach, go through. There's a state park nearby here. Go up to the town. I'm gonna probably soon be heading out to watch the Penn State game, as you can see here. But I also last night actually had a real good conversation with some locals when I was down at the bar, and just talking about it did not start anywhere near political discussion, but one of the people said something, led to another thing, became very fiery but respectful. There was no bad feeling or sorry, table is a little wobbly. There's no bad feelings or anything, but just a frank trade of ideas. And I think that's a good thing to do. To have these conversations is important, because when I have conversations, whether it's people who agree with me on the left or some of these people on the right, it's good to hear from people and get an idea where their mindset is. Because, look, I didn't convince them; they didn't convince me. And in fact, I feel even stronger about my beliefs, and probably the same goes with them. But now I have a better feeling, understanding, and it's a way I can actually look at it and see, okay, how can I approach this? How was my approach good? How was my approach bad? It's the same way like a sporting event, actually. You have to practice, you have to have scrimmages, and sometimes when you play a team once, you play them again, and you do better because you learn about where they're coming from. And I don't think the people I was arguing with were bad. They were good, honest people, trying to raise families, just trying to do the best they can. They're coming from a different place than I am. So I think, particularly when you're advocating things like socialism in South Carolina, it's going to be a hard sell, and it's not going to happen over one discussion. It's not going to happen over one day. It's going to take a long time. You're talking about overthrowing a system that everybody has been told is a good idea, that everyone was raised to believe was the right way of doing things. That's a hard thing to break. It's hard to break out of our own viewpoints. I've like to think I do it more than most people, but even I fall back to my own viewpoints. There's no denying that. So I would advocate just openly willing to talk to people. Not Nazis. Nazis can go fuck themselves. So you have to draw a line somewhere. But normal people who are Republicans, try to talk to them a little bit. Now, sometimes they're going to become belligerent. Then you got to, defend yourself. That's a different issue. And sometimes you're going to deal with people who just, it's not going to happen, and then just don't waste your time. Fuck them. But is you can learn something. Know your enemies. And I don't even think the people I was talking to last night were my enemies. They just had a different viewpoint. But know it, understand it. And that will allow you to challenge your own beliefs. And if you come out of there believing still with the same thing, you believe it even stronger, and you have another piece of information. Like in science, we gather pieces of data, we gather information to make conclusions. You gather another piece of information. Ultimately, we're trying to get enough people to support us so we can have actual changes. Part of that's going to be getting non-voters out. Hopefully most of that will be non-voters, but if you can peel off a few Trump voters, that would be good too. It depends on whether they are truly driven by economics, if there are a lot of them at this point are not going to be swayed. So it's a tough situation, but it was a very enlightening discussion. Never back down from your beliefs, though. I tried to level with them and be respectful, but when push came to shove, I let it be known that I didn't agree. And you don't want to roll over. Too many times in my life, I think I've rolled over and said, "Oh, I agree." No, if you disagree, you got to speak up. Now, I'm not saying yell and scream, "You're an idiot," this, that, but at least just say, "Hey, you make a valid point, but this actually I don't agree with." You got to just say it, and I just said it strongly. So no one convinced anyone, but it was a good experience. But it really just crystallized for me the challenge of what's ahead. And part of it is a lot of people are still comfortable enough, and they see job rates of people looking for jobs going down, and they see the stock market tick up, and it's like a placebo effect. They think then everything's peachy. But part of that is because they're still living well enough, and they think the poor are going to take money from them, not from the rich. So there's a whole wall that's going to need to be broken down. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take time. The reason I say this also is we have to advocate patience. Yeah, the Democratic Party is trash in a lot of ways. I agree 100%. But people saying don't vote for them in 2018, with the sole exception of Manchin in West Virginia, because he's gone so far over, and in the Kavanaugh, by voting to confirm Kavanaugh, that's a bridge too far. If you're not even going to hold the line on there, then you're largely worthless. But, other maybe more mainline Democrats, you got to support them right now. Not out of happiness or joy, but out of reality. Got to break the Republican monopoly because it's hurting a lot of people tangibly. And as far as I can tell, not doing that, again, with few exceptions of people who've gone so far over they might as well be Republicans, it's not even worth it. For most Democrats, you got to support them right now because it's a very privileged, honestly, position to just be like, oh, they're the same. They're not the same. Do you see what they're doing? They're taking everything going even farther, and that has to be considered, not only in the domestic realm, but let's look at domestic, what they're doing in the environmental issues, what they're doing with regard to workplace regulations, what they're doing with regard to a tax cut that's going to make income inequality even get worse. So we just we have no choice but to do it. Come 2020, hopefully we find a really good candidate. And then moving forward, no matter what happens, you keep the fight going, you keep to make the world a better place. And even if and when capitalism were to fall in our lifetime and it would be replaced by socialism or a Marxism state or something else, we should still be critical and fighting for perfection. Now, that doesn't mean you vote with perfection in mind, but you fight to get as perfect a society as possible. And even if the following system that we think works out is going to work out well turns out not to work out well, we should be back on the streets fighting again and finding another way. But the simple fact is we've been through a lot of different throughout human history. You go from the ancient times to feudalism. Feudalism becomes capitalism. Capitalism has run its course. It's going to go away at some point. Unless climate change kills us all. That always has to be a point, especially given the recent reports. But capitalism is going to have to go away at some point. We have to replace it. We have to evolve and have a better system. So always you have to keep a nuanced mind. You have to have, two sides to it. You have to be willing to be incredibly critical, but at the same time, you got to be willing to make the smart pick. As we see, the right is rising worldwide, and this is another thing. Domestic, this has been happening, but also foreign policy. Obama was not good in foreign policy. Clinton, Bush, especially Bush, a fucking war criminal. All these people are not good. American foreign policy has been trash for decades upon decades. So, this is not to say that, bringing in Democrats will simply solve that problem. It won't. But it's worse to have a guy like Trump who's even taking it to another place, who's turning his back on and actively helping genocides, which, again, has happened pre-Trump, but Trump's making it worse, putting out than open. Basically allowing Saudi Arabia to knock off journalists. It's not, being an open authoritarian. This is not helping us. This is not going to be good for us worldwide. It's also not good for the people worldwide, and it's not good also for us here at home with Trump implementing more authoritarian policies by the day, and hiding behind the economic numbers. So I would say that the best thing, let me say something else to go a step further. We have to look at the fact that if you want a leftist, government for the working people, and something to help people who are in need or people who are vulnerable, it can't just happen in one country. It It's happened in many countries, if not all. So, or else it's going to just keep being attacked by those other countries, and those other countries will be ruthless and try and take them out. Look at what's happening in Brazil. The Wall Street Journal and other financial establishment, publications and institutions are backing a fucking Nazi. Sorry, misspoke. A fucking fascist. An actual fact. This guy makes Trump look moderate. Who thinks, the military dictatorships of the past were good. Who thinks Pinochet was good. Who is overtly homophobic, overtly racist. Who's gonna probably implement, even though he won't talk like a really nasty austerity. This guy's gonna be a disaster. He's gonna be terrifying. It's genuinely terrifying. And they've thrown their lot behind and said, "Oh, he's not that bad." And the other guy is also bad. The other guy is basically a social democrat. In American standard would be kind of left wing, but worldwide standards center left. Just doing some things to help the workers. Nothing that dangerous, but still, this is what they've done, and that's the mentality. I'm actually working on a piece for my new blog, and I don't know when exactly it's going to come out, but I'm going to put it out. But I'm going to touch on some of this stuff. That's more focused on the Overton window, theory side of it, but just in the practical side is we just got to watch out, because it's happening in Eastern Europe. It's happening all over the world with the Saudis, the Egyptians, the Israelis. You fucking name it. The Russians, even. Yeah, the Russians too. Putin is a right-wing oligarch. He's not a communist. With a common misconception. So where I'm getting at is we can't be really lazy about this on the left. I've seen some takes on the left that are very just critical, and spend half their time whining about Hillary Clinton. Yeah, fuck Hillary Clinton. I don't like Hillary Clinton. It's not really relevant right now. All right? Yeah, I saw the Clintons are going on campaigning. That's not helpful. They shouldn't do that. But, then you're going to use that to downplay what Trump is doing in all these other places. Not helpful. And to say, oh, let's just all vote third party 2018. Again, there are cases you can in local elections. There are absolutely times you should. Example, there's a good candidate from the Maryland legislature in Baltimore, Josh Harris, who's running as a Green Party, and he's only running against Democrats, so there's no issues of putting Republicans in power. All right, and the Democrats in those cases, there are one or two that are really, really just bad. So there's a logic. So I'm saying is you need to have nuance in your brain. You need to think about these different things. You can't take it all at the surface level. So it just is absolutely critical that to get at least somebody, break some of that power. Don't let him constantly sell arms to the Saudis. Don't let him find ways to stop the move of the embassy to Jerusalem, although given the Democrats, that's going to be hard. The things in domestic policy, Supreme Court. So all these things are absolutely critical. We really need to be mindful of it. So that's all I got today. Sorry, it was a little bit all over the place. It's been a crazy time. But I will be, keep an eye out on the, I'll put a link in below for the blog and also my Twitter. Twitter's the easiest thing, so I do a lot of stuff on that too. So until next time, I will see you later. I might do a video tomorrow, not 100%, but if not, I'll do it when I get back. All right, see you.